Me, she said, then went back to chopping vegetables. So, where should I start? You want to hear about what I had for dinner Thursday night, what book I'm reading, A Life of Montaigne, okay? Because I'm sure that'll bring those kids home faster. Chapter 21. There wasn't a single note about Isabel Morris's earlier interviews in the thin, unclassified file I'd gotten from the Bureau, so I couldn't compare her stories with what I was hearing now. She told us she'd been home the evening before the kidnapping, left the house around 7:30 the next morning for the Braniff campus, and then went right back home again after she'd been released. None of it ruled out a connection to the case, but I thought we were probably wasting our time with her as much as she did. On the way back in, Sampson and I stopped at an empanada place he likes on 16th. We ate our turnovers in the car with a couple of yoo-hoos. God save our digestive systems. Mine, anyway. Sampson eats like he's part goat. It's been that way since we were 10 years old. So, what are you thinking? Sampson said. Those kids still alive? Any chance at all? I stared over at him. If no one's made any demands yet, that's a terrible sign. On the other hand, the FBI or Secret Service could be sitting on something. Let's face it, Ethan and Zoe Coyle are two of the highest value targets in the world. John demolished half an empanada in a single bite. You think this could be international? Sampson said. Terrorism? I shrugged. For the moment, I'm throwing darts, John. But I'll tell you one thing. I keep coming back to the Gary Sinigi case. Prior to this, the Sinigi mess had been the biggest kidnap investigation and in some ways the biggest debacle I'd ever been attached to. Sinigi worked at the school he took those kids from, Sampson said. I remember they had to drag you kicking and screaming onto that case. And now, here you are, kicking and screaming to get onto this one. Yeah. I looked down at the pile of busy work files on the seat between us. I just hope those kids are alive. John, I still remember the day we found Michael Goldberg in that grave. I don't want to relive it. I don't want to find another dead child.
Chapter 22. Be ready to die at any time. Be ready to sacrifice everything. Your life, your family. That had never been more true than right now. At 8 o'clock Monday night, the Aldessaris arrived at the Harmony Suites Business Hotel on 22nd Street. Neither of them carried anything with them. No weapons, no ID. They took the rear stairs to the third floor where they knocked twice at the door of room 345. It was all exactly as specified on the disc they'd received at the Natural History Museum. A smiling, round-bellied Saudi promptly answered the door. He was clean-shaven, with a Washington Nationals ball cap perched on his head. A family member, finally. Come in, he said, smiling as he closed the door. Everything is ready for you. Welcome, brother, sister. He nodded deferentially as he shook Hala's hand, even as his small eyes lingered over her breasts. Please take off that silly hat, she said to him. He immediately did as he was told. The man's much younger wife was inside, spreading clear plastic sheets over both of the queen-size beds. She smiled too, but didn't speak, not even to offer any sort of refreshment. Hala noticed that she had very large breasts. Augmented, she wondered? Disgraceful if that was the case, a ridiculous Western custom, dangerous as well. In the corner, several unmarked cardboard boxes were stacked against the wall. This was the poison, wasn't it? A great deal of it. 2 large empty canvas duffels and a plain black briefcase sat on the dresser. Once the perfunctory greetings had been made, they got to work on the death hit. Tariq and the other man began unpacking cartons while the young woman went to the briefcase and flipped it open for Hala to inspect. Weapons, the young wife said shyly, nervously. Yes, weapons. We're at war with America. Oh, hadn't you heard? Nested in the case's foam liner were a Bowie knife in a leather sheath, a tightly coiled garrote with small wooden handles, a taser, a Sig Sauer combat model pistol. The kit also included 6 15-round magazines and a suppressor. Hala picked up the Sig, keeping her eyes raised as she had been trained to do. Her hand found one of the magazines, slapped it into place, then twisted the suppressor onto the threaded muzzle. Tariq caught her eye and smiled. He liked her with a gun, liked the ease with which she fondled the weapons. She was the soldier, not him. She was the trained assassin as well. "This will do," Hollis said, mostly for his benefit, and set the cig back down. "Here," Tariq handed each of the women a pair of latex gloves and a blue filtration mask. "We should get started on the rest of our task." "Be careful, very careful," Hala warned the other couple. "Do not touch your skin or eyes once we begin. I'm serious about that." For the next several hours they were all extremely careful. The two women cut dozens of squares from a roll of fine mesh cloth and laid them out in rows on the bed. Tariq instructed the male as the two of them painstakingly measured out white crystalline powder from large plastic canisters, mounding the substance in the center of each cloth square. The cloth was then tied at the corners into tight bundles and secured to one of several lengths of clear nylon line. Every string of 10 bundles was placed into its own plastic bag. The bags were then tucked into duffels. They finished their task at just past midnight. Tariq opened a window and lifted his mask to indicate it was safe for the others. Their host was grinning as he took off his own mask. He clapped a hand onto Tariq's shoulder. "Brother, I know I'm not supposed to ask you where you're taking these, but I can't wait to find out. We're all very excited about this." Tariq only stared at the man's hand until he took it away. Hala answered for them. She picked up the loaded cig from the dresser and pointed it at their hosts. "Sit down, both of you," she said. "We're not quite done here." "I said sit down." Chapter 23. "What do you think you're doing?" the fat man asked, even as he sat obediently on the bed. Hala kept her gun trained between his eyes, the same ones that had been undressing her all night. "We watched 2 of our own die at the airport last week," she said. "I thought they had done something stupid to get themselves pulled out of line, but apparently not. Someone's talking to the Americans. There's been a leak. The family is sure of it." "And they think it's us?" the man asked incredulously. "That isn't possible. It's ridiculous." "It's all been spelled out," Hala told them, referring to the disc they'd been given. "Not just our instructions, but everything you two have been doing since you came here." "Sister, I swear, we're with you," the wife blurted. "We are family too." "No," Hala said, waving her pistol at the woman's ridiculous chest. "You're whores to the American cause. Traitors." "It's not true," the man insisted. "No, no." The two were so intent on their denials they didn't even seem to notice what else was happening in the room. Tariq had taken a plastic canister to the sink and begun mixing a small amount of the white powder into 2 glasses of water. Now he was using someone's pink toothbrush to stir each one into a cloudy mixture. He carried the glasses over to the couple on the bed. "Don't make a fuss," he said. "Just drink this down. Have some dignity." There was fear, but also anger in the fat man's eyes. "Or what? You'll shoot us?" Hala said. "It's preferable that you do this quietly, but if you need encouragement, I'm supposed to remind you of your family back home." "But this is a horrible mistake," the wife babbled on. "We haven't done what you said. We are loyal to the cause." "That's very touching," Hala said, "but it doesn't matter to me or to the family. Not anymore. Now I'm going to count to 5. Please. 1. I'm begging you, sister. 2. The man snatched both glasses from Tariq. He pressed one into his wife's hand. "We have no choice, Sana. Think of Jabir. Think of Siti." "Think of 3, Hala said as she continued the countdown. She had no pity for these people. They were disloyal and they were weak. This mission was too important to risk a mistake. 4. The man tilted his head back and shot the mixture down like whiskey. Then his hands were on his wife's, helping her to do the same. The woman gagged, sobbing as she drank the milky liquid, but it went down. Enough of it anyway. Right away her lips went pink, her breath started coming in sharp rasps. "I'm dying," she whispered. "Why? Why must I die?" The husband looked up at Hala with hatred in his eyes. "Assassin," he said. "Don't flatter yourself," Hala told him. and gestured at the empty glass in his hand. "You're no murder victim, you fool. You're a suicide statistic." Tariq took the two duffels and carried them to the door. Hala stayed where she was. There was pleasure in watching these people die, but it was also her job to see it through. The wife was the first to spasm, violently bucking and kicking until she collapsed to the floor. The husband, maybe twice her size, hung in longer. He watched Hala with huge bug eyes as she calmly watched him. His sense of taste and smell would be gone by now, no doubt. The eyesight would fade next. Then the hearing just at the very end. "Hala," Tariq raised his voice. "It's done. Let's go, please. Let's go." She picked up the weapons case and slowly backed toward the door, observing all the way. With one last spasm, the fat man lurched forward. He landed face down on the carpet and was still beside his wife. "Now it's done," Hala said, and turned to leave. "I thought that went rather well. We're getting better at this, don't you think?"
Chapter 24. I woke up in a bad mood that morning, grumpy, cranky, in need of caffeine. Unusual for me, but there it was. Most days, Nana and I spent breakfast talking about the day ahead or debating some foolishness from the headlines. But it was the headlines that were making me angry now. I hid behind my post and steamed, reading about how the authorities weren't getting anywhere with the 4-day-old Coyle kidnapping. Somewhere around my second cup of coffee, I heard a little tap on the other side of the paper. "You learning anything new in there?" Nana said. "Or just stewing?" "I'm stewing. I don't want to talk about it," I said. "Talk about what?" said Janny, coming in from the hall. I could hear her brother Ali bringing up the rear, thunking that backpack of his down the stairs. The kid had barely started elementary school. How much stuff did he need? Sounded like about 50 pounds of books. "Ali, pick that thing up. Don't scratch up my stairs," I called out. "Please, and thank you." "You're welcome," he called back, and kept thunking anyway. My oldest, Damon, was away at boarding school, and I still hadn't gotten used to having him gone. These mornings always felt just a little bit empty without all of our family. "Talk about what?" Janny asked again. She gave me a kiss good morning and pointed at a news photo of Ethan and Zoe. "That kidnapping?" "Excuse me, but which part of I don't want to talk about it didn't you understand?" I said. "And by the way, let's make this a quick breakfast. The Alex bus leaves in 15 minutes, sharp." Janny made a face she probably thought I didn't catch, then went to pour some juice for herself. I retreated back into my paper while Nana dished up cheddar eggs with whole wheat toast and cocoa for the kids. For a minute or two it was conspicuously quiet in the kitchen. I could feel them all staring at me through the paper, though. Then Janny piped up again. "Hey, Dad?" "Yes," I said, trying my best to be calm. "The 7 dwarves called. They want their grumpy back." What could I say? Ali roared with laughter and high-fived his sister across the table. I heard Nana snickering over by the sink. The FBI obviously had no respect for me, and now neither did my family. Damn it, though, I had a right to be out of sorts. "Lord, let this man catch a bad guy today," Nana said. "We could all use it." "No comment," I said, and gave a little growl for good measure. Then, just as the mood was lightening up a little, Bree came charging down the stairs. Mussed hair, rumpled tea, bare feet. Something was wrong. "Alex, turn on the news. Turn on the news right now." She never moves that fast before her first cup of coffee, so I knew this couldn't be good. I hustled out to the living room where she was standing in front of the TV. Channel 4 had a live report going. "What is it?" I said. "I don't know," Bree said. "Something bad happened at the McMillan Reservoir. There's some kind of problem with the water supply." Chapter 25. District officials closed the D.C. schools. Bree stayed home with Ali and Janny while I rushed to work. All the info I got from making a few phone calls on the way was that hospitals were overwhelmed with emergency admissions. Hundreds of people had been showing up with bouts of vomiting, blurred vision, trouble breathing, loss of consciousness, even a few heart attacks. It wasn't hard to go right to the worst-case scenario. Washington was under attack. But who was behind it? Did it have anything to do with the Coyle kidnapping? Was that nightmare a real possibility? It sure looked like it at MPD headquarters, the Daily building. Police trucks and buses were double parked out front, ready to go. Cruisers were leaving the garage